Dear students, good afternoon. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 5th November 2020. The first article for discussion is Fixing the Rules of the Economy. Here the central theme is productivity of the economy. We measure that based on GDP output of a nation divided by its total workforce. In a company you measure it, that is total output of that company divided by number of workers in that company. How we can improve this productivity? One is by replacing the workers with capital intensive technology, or two, by upskilling our workers. In this, which is appropriate for India, in what direction India is going? India also goes in the western lines to make it capital intensive by increasing the technology rather than upskilling the workers. Let us take the Japanese model. There, the priority is on upskilling the workers. There came the concept called as total quality management. It emphasizes on continuous improvement. It means skilling, reskilling, upskilling of the employees on year by year basis. Why is it happening in Japan? In Japan, an employee is recruited for life and there is certainty of job to him. On the other countries, we believe in hire and fire mechanism. Most of the capital intensive industries, they believe in hire and fire mechanism. In this scenario, what the author says is the game has to change. The present game is in favor of wealthy investors. It has to change towards the benefit of workers and tiny enterprises. That is the essence of this article. The next article is the financial capacity of the states is being weakened. Here there are three important points which are being stressed. One is the opportunities for the states to raise their own revenues. Before GST, the states have the taxes listed in their own kitty and they were in a position to raise the revenues. But today, GST subsumed all these things. It means GST Council alone can raise the taxes, not the individual states. Second, there is no clear devolution of funds. Before 2014, Finance Commission recommendations by and large accepted by the central government, though it is not mandatory. It is because of the respect to the constitutional institution and to the federal devolution of tax revenues. The shareable pool of taxes formed the major source of revenue for the governments of the day. But today, from 2014-15 to 2019, if you take total 8 lakh crores, to be precise, 7 lakh 97,000 crores is not being devolved to the states from the shareable pool of taxes. And next point is cess and surcharge. You know that cess and surcharge are not part of the shareable pool. If the whole tax is increased, then the revenue of it has to be shared with the states. But cess and surcharge goes to the center alone. Today the governments are not raising the taxes which are in the shareable pool, but replacing them with cess or surcharge. If you take the statistics over here, in 2014-15 they are 9.3% of the gross receipts of the center. Today they count for 15% of the gross tax receipts of the center. And finally, we have got compensatory cess issue. The GST shortfall has to be paid as a compensation to the states through the collections of cess. As COVID-19 has hit the economy and GST shortfall was visible, government is considering that as an act of God and is not ready to share or give that revenue to the states. Added to that, the discretionary grants that have to come from the center to the states for various projects is also going down. With all this, the author says that the fiscal capacity, financial capacity, which is necessary for the state governments to carry forward their developmental work, is missing. The next article is about American elections, authoritarian turn. If you see the American elections and after process, you can understand how well elections are conducted in India. Let us keep certain failures away, such as election expenditure. More or less, election is peaceful, systematic, and declare of elections is on time in India. We have to give that applaud to the Election Commission of India. In United States of America, there is no such centralized mechanism to frame and enforce the rules regarding elections. Every state, every county make their own election laws, election processes, counting methods, etc. The entire confusion is related to this. In 2000, the same was the issue. The Florida state, Democrats lost and George Bush has become the president. See, the Supreme Court verdict made George Bush the president then. Al Gore has to lose the election then. Al Gore was leading, and finally, the Florida, one single state, made all the difference to Al Gore. And there also, the counting technique is being disputed. And obviously, the judgment came in favor to Mr. George Bush. Now, Mr. Trump wants to make this election controversial too. What he is doing, he has stirred up the controversy by declaring himself as elected. And next is, he is not recognizing the mail-in votes which have come up after November 3rd. So in this context, the results are expected to be delayed this time too. Let us wait and see. The next is star status. It is about the judgment of the Supreme Court yesterday that who has to be the star campaigner from a political party will be the discretion of that political party. Election Commission cannot involve with that. Let us analyze. Model code of conduct has no legality. It means there is no law supporting it. It has come into existence through consensus. But how Election Commission of India is able to enforce the model code of conduct? Here we need to understand the Article 324 of the Constitution, which talks about superintendent's direction and control of the elections. This Article 324 of the elections provides for lot of scope for the action to the Election Commission. This is what we call it as residuary power. The residuary power here refers to whenever there is no legality for a particular thing. Whenever there is no legality for a particular thing, then comes what we call it as discretion of the Election Commission from the powers stated in Article 324. This is what we call it as residuary power. Are you getting my point? See carefully. The model code of conduct or anything for that matter is from this residuary power, which made the Election Commission of India most respectable constitutional body in the country. Today, Supreme Court cutting its wings is not good for this institution. That is how this article is trying to put it as. Courts for trying lawmakers in public interest. It is recommended that special courts need to be constituted to try the lawmakers past and present. The Supreme Court clearly stated that it has to be constituted in public interest. Here, Chennai High Court raised an objection which stated that special courts need not be constituted and these cannot be offender centric. Anytime a special court, if it has to be constituted, it has to be offense centric. If it creates offender centric, then it goes against the principle of equality before law. That is basic tenet of Article 14 of the Constitution. That is what is the argument. Integrated township policy gets nod. It is decongestion of the city. So decongestion of the city is an important need in the urban areas. Unplanned urbanization is dangerous. In this scenario, Hyderabad has to be decongested. It means that the core of the city has to move to the outskirts and a new policy has come into that existence. Added to that, mobility of the people for employment, education, etc. to the core of the city also need to be reduced. That's why education and other services shall be made available in the suburbs. That is what is the objective of this. Next is government forms panel to review TRP norms. You know, TRP scam has come up recently. In this scenario, Government of India, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting constituted a committee by Shashi Shekhar Vempati, the CEO of Prasara Bharati, to review the norms. These are the articles for today. Thank you very much.